There we go. Thanks for the welcome this morning. It's great to be here at the 3686 Entrepreneurship Festival. It's my first time as mayor to be here, but it's great to be here today. As you all know, entrepreneurship is critically important to Nashville's history and its future. And I hope everybody who has been here over the last couple of days have enjoyed themselves, but not too much. Well, you can enjoy yourself as much as you want. I don't care. We actually have a new glass recycling downtown at the Honky Tonks. So the more beer you drink, the more we can recycle. So please drink. So it's my honor to introduce the panel today. And some of you, I see some friends in the audience. So you've seen me speak before, and I don't normally read from a speech. I normally just sort of ad lib. So if I sound like I'm reading, it's because I am this time. First, let me introduce Charlie Brock from Launch, Tennessee. He's the CEO and president. I'm sure most of you have already met him in some context before, but it's great to have Charlie here. He has been the CEO of Launch, Tennessee since January of 2013, and under his tenure, Launch, Tennessee has grown into the Southeast Premier Entrepreneurship Conference. It's launched 7 industry accelerator programs for high-growth startups, passed startup-friendly legislation at our legislature, which is a feat in and of itself to pass anything, provided programming that reached entrepreneurs in 80% of our state's 95 counties, up from 15% in 2013 when he first started. Early-stage investment in Tennessee has increased 100% during Charlie's leadership at Tennessee's entrepreneurial ecosystem. Now, Charlie is from Chattanooga, which is my second favorite place in Tennessee. And if you have not had a chance to go to Chattanooga at some point in your life, you should go. Not only do they have fiber optic to the home as part of a municipally owned broadband system, it is a great place to go. So Charlie, I know, is ending his run here, but if you want to go see him in Chattanooga, I hope you will. Second is Rod Essig from the Creative Artists Agency. He co-heads the Nashville Artists and represents some of the world's top musicians, including Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Martina McBride, Ashley Monroe, REO Speedwagon, Styx, and Tim McGraw. And I think last weekend, his artists had all 3 of our major venues downtown occupied, and it was probably the biggest, the busiest music weekend we have had in our town outside of the CMA Fest in a very long time. So let's see. His accolades are I don't know, would take 2 or 3 pages to read here, so I'm gonna jump to the ones I consider the most important. In 2008, he served as chairman of the Academy of Country Music and currently serves on the board of the Country Music Hall of Fame. He served on Lifting Lives, the Nashville Metro Airport Authority, where we're in the middle of $1 billion investment right now, Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital, Music Cares, Tennessee Performing Arts Center, and the W.O. Smith School of Music. Next is Ken Levitan from Vector Management. He's the founder and co-president. He leads one of the most formidable artist, lifestyle, and brand management companies in the entertainment business today. He has had an active role in the success of many artists, the Kings of Leon, Kenny Rogers, the Struts, Peter Frampton, Alison Krauss, T-Bone Burnett, the Prophets of Rage, otherwise known as our city council, Cheap Trick, Leonard Skinner, Emmylou Harris, John Hyatt, Aaron Lewis, Hank Williams Jr., and other. And the most important thing about Ken is that his wife is a former judge. She once put me in jail. I'll never forgive her. I'm joking. I've never been to jail. But his wife was a judge, a good friend of mine. Then Van Tucker from the Nashville Fashion Alliance. She's the CEO. Thank you, Van. It's an organization dedicated to amplifying early-stage fashion business with an ecosystem of support and resources. Over the last 5 years, she's led this industry through the formation of the NFA through her collaborative organic approach, working with key stakeholders to build community engagement and industry support for their NFA's mission. She's a Franklin, Tennessee native and began her career in banking and financial services. She worked at the Bank of America for nearly 2 decades and was a co-founder of Avenue Bank as the Chief Creative Officer. She's got a long career of service on 25 community boards, including the Nashville Symphony Orchestra, and she was named to the over 40 list of women disruptors by Forbes magazine in 2018 and the Nashville Business Journal Woman of Influence. Finally, but not least, is Marcus Whitney. I don't know if you'll get Marcus to say much today. He's a very quiet guy, but he's president. Is that right, Marcus? Marcus will not say a word today, I'm confident. He's president and co-founder of Briovation, an innovation catalyst company focused on improving health globally. Through Briovation, Marcus is CEO of Health Further, a community focused on the future of health, and founding partner of Jumpstart Foundry. It's a new kind of venture capital firm focused on innovation and early stage healthcare companies. And Jumpstart has a portfolio of over 45 companies here in Nashville, including Sitebox, which was recently sold to Johnson & Johnson. As you know, we've been awarded an MLS expansion franchise here in Nashville, but we've had soccer even before that. Marcus is also the co-founder and co-owner of the Nashville Soccer Club, which is a USL team. And Marcus has been working hard over the last few months to help us finalize the beginning of the MLS team here in Nashville. And Marcus as well is a good friend of mine. So thank you all very much for being here today. And at this point, I'll turn it over to the team.
Great, thank you, Mayor Briley. And let me just say before you walk off, you've heard on this stage over the last, within the last 24 hours, public-private and Launch Tennessee and the entrepreneur centers and just the sense of collaboration in Tennessee from different folks involved, from the public side, private corporations, et cetera. And this is another great example. And we had the state represented here yesterday with the current governor this morning, as well with the 2 gubernatorial candidates. Also, the city of Nashville is a great partner for us. It's not every conference that would be able to put street cleans down, that would be able to have banners on the street, and they let us block off part of the street yesterday, and you all know now how busy Broadway is at any time of the day, and they let us block off some of that to make that innovation alley for some of the Nissan vehicles. Nissan's our lead sponsor here. So let's give it up for Mayor Briley and thank him and the city of Nashville. So speaking of the city of Nashville, many of you are from here, from Tennessee. You've seen what's happening, in this city, which is incredible. A number of you from outside the state. Last year we had 32 states represented. I'm not sure what the final count is for this year's attendees, but we hope you're going to find value in this as well. This is not just for the Nashville. You're going to hear a lot of Nashville pride here, and we've got 4 leaders who are helping drive what's happening in Nashville and representing 4 different industry clusters, although there's certainly some crossover with some of the panelists involved with multiple clusters. But we're going to talk about really what's been driving within each of these industries, what's happening, what's the state today, what's driving innovation, the energy level, the activity, and more importantly, what do we need to do going forward to maintain it and to accelerate it and make this city all that it can be. Okay, but we also hope those of you from outside Nashville are going to benefit from this, because you're going to get some takeaways as you think about your key strengths in your cities, in your states, in your regions. What can you do to go back and leverage them to really maximize that, and particularly focus on entrepreneurship and innovation? So you heard the intros from Mayor Briley. We've got a star-studded panel here. And I might also add, Marcus, he talked about Marcus being quiet. If Marcus is quiet today, he's got a really, really good reason, because he just wrapped up the Health Further conference, and I know we worked together, again, a great sense of collaboration. We sat down with Marcus and Vic last August, and said, hey, we're going to move 3686. We'd love to move it in conjunction with Health Further and with Live on the Green, and let's do this together. And how do we collaborate? We did some joint marketing. We had a joint ticket purchase with a discount. So give it up for Marcus and the team at Health Further. So, okay, let's talk about the industries here. And I'm going to start, and I'd like each of you to address kind of the state of business and particularly focus on innovation within your industries today in Nashville. And Rod, I'm going to start with you in music. And we're also going to draft a little bit into music into sports. And we just had a sports panel with Preds and Titans and Nashville Soccer. Mark is obviously involved in sports as well. Love for you to talk about what's happening in Nashville in the music and sports scene.
Well, we opened up the office in Nashville. We're an LA-based company, and we're the largest sports, television, motion picture, and music agency in the world. So we have 3,400 people all over China, Mumbai, India, all over, doing everything. But here in Nashville, out of this office right now, we do country music, obviously, Christian music, EDM music. We do pop music or rock music out of here. We book all the, if you guys read the Coachellas of the world or any of those kind of things, that's all booked out of Nashville, Tennessee. We do sponsorship endorsements out of here for the whole company. We have, the main music offices are in London, New York, LA, and Nashville, of which in music alone, we have 1,700 acts. So we have 168 agents are all tied together. So we're very territorial as far as how we book stuff. But then also on the 7th floor, you go downstairs and we have 14 football agents, which we had a great draft season this year. And we also represent the majority of the coaches in the SEC in football, and probably 80% of the coaches in the NFL. One statistic on ESPN, we represent every single broadcaster on ESPN as a company. We have baseball here, we have hockey here, we have sports marketing out of here, we have branding out of Nashville, Tennessee. So there's 140 of us in Nashville, Tennessee, and if I get my way, we'll open another floor another year, and we'll have more people coming in here, a lot more on sports. We're building a lot of the music, but sports is really a major, major drive for our company. And a focus that we're doing all over the world with soccer teams and everything like that. So that's kind of what we did. Again, we opened up here 26 years ago with 3 agents and 5 acts. And now we've got probably 150 artists out of here of Tim McGraw, Shania Twain, all those kind of, that kind of heavy-duty people, and Keith Urban and everything. So that's kind of what we do out of here. We're a privately held company. We work very, very closely with the city. The mayor, work a lot with them. The only thing I'm praying our new governor will give us $25 or $30 million for incentives so we can start competing with Atlanta, Georgia for getting film and television here. Dolly Parton is building a sound stage, so we're going to have a sound stage probably next 6 months. And then we can really compete with Atlanta and Louisiana and North Carolina in the film business. And that will be another great big stake that we're going to have be involved very much with the state and with the cities all over Tennessee. So I'm just saying that's kind of, I think that's where our growth is really going to look to. Right. You know, everybody says that, they're compared to Austin, but I always tell everybody, our artists don't live in Austin. They all live in Nashville, Tennessee. So we're definitely ahead of there.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, and I know people understand and think about CAA and the music, but maybe the sports is a little bit of an eye-opening. Said that much representation. So you said it was a great draft. We got a lot of football fans out here, I'm sure. I'd love you to define great.
We had 19 of the first 32 first-round draft picks this year, so that was really a good draft. And then we also did that $100 million contract for one of the coaches.
that works for great.
So that works for great, too.
Yeah.
So, those kind of things. Again, in the music industry, we're a 10% business. In the sponsorship area, we're a 20 to 25% business. In the sports area, we're a 3 to 5% business. So if you hear those big numbers, it's very, in the baseball world, when you sign a contract, you get paid or you get hurt. In the football world, it's all about what you get up front as a signing bonus, because you may never get to the third, fourth year. So when you see somebody gets a $10 million signing bonus, that's the big thing. That's what we negotiate, as opposed to that 3 and 4 year contract, because we just never get there. So.
Right. All right, Vance, we've been talking about a real legacy business for Nashville on the music side. Fashion, not something that everybody always associates with Nashville. That's changing in large part to your work. Will you talk about that?
Yes, we have the largest per capita concentration of independent fashion companies in this area outside of Los Angeles and New York. And
come on, let's have a bigger, one whistle doesn't do it. There we go.
And I love to hear that sports is going to complement CAA's music business. We just had a soccer player, London Woodbury, who just did this incredible photo shoot with one of our local brands, and it totally went viral and blew him up, blew soccer up, blew our Atelier Savas up. So that is why I'm thrilled to be sitting on the stage with these wonderful gentlemen. We are the opportunity of the future. There's a lot of disruption in the fashion industry. Many people think of it as fashion shows and photo shoots. And while that is an important part of the industry, it is not the driving engine. And I look forward to telling you all more about people like Sarah Bellows, who is creating sustainable dyes in Springfield, Tennessee, and changing the environment. I see David Perry in the audience. David is working to build a factory here, something we need desperately. So there are many opportunities in our industry, and I know all these guys personally, and I'm just thrilled to be in the middle of all of them, so thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing to help folks like Sarah and David, and how we're pushing forward to kind of have more access to resources?
Sure. Our role is, even though we have this large concentration here, there are very few resources here. Most of the resources are in Los Angeles, New York, or even out of country. And they're difficult to access, they're expensive to access, and for many creative people, which many of our companies are run by creative people, it's just mind-boggling to try to navigate it all. So our role is to help build an ecosystem and infrastructure very similarly to what was done in the music industry here in the 80s and 90s. Building that ecosystem to help them be able to create and grow and scale and innovate in their businesses at a much more accelerated pace.
And I might just add to that, we, as many of you know, we do partnerships not only with entrepreneur centers, but with other key industry partners across the state who are driving forward in different industries. And we've done so in life sciences and with energy. And now in this new budget year that we just started last month, we've been working very closely with Van and trying to say, how do we help not just Nashville, but all of Tennessee become a mecca for fashion innovation and entrepreneurship?
How exciting is that? That's so exciting for us to be able to have that partnership. Thank you to Launch Tennessee for that.
All right, Van, the man to your right here is an icon in the music business, and he's welcome to talk about that. But he's also up here today representing the culinary business. And so, Ken, talk about culinary business in Nashville and kind of why Nashville, why now, and how you've helped push that forward.
Well, I've been in Nashville for 42 years now, and I travel all around the world because of my main job, which is managing a number of clients. And one of the things that I always saw here was that there was a lack of diversity in restaurants. And I helped Trisha Yearwood. I managed Trisha Yearwood for a long time and got her involved in the second aspect of her career, which is all of the food stuff that she does, her books, her TV show, her products, all of those kind of things. And through that, I met a lot of chefs. And then I also managed the Kings of Leon. And Caleb Followell, who is the lead singer, was spending a lot of time in New York and became friendly with Jonathan Waxman, he was one of the first celebrity chefs, actually, and has had some very well-known restaurants in New York. And so through Caleb, I met Jonathan, and we became partners in a restaurant called Adele's. But at the same time, we came up with the idea of thinking, like, how do we attract, when Jonathan came down here, he fell in love with Nashville. We came up with the idea, how do we attract more chefs to Nashville to see, so we can increase the diversity. So we started the Music City Food and Wine Festival, which actually USA Today picked as top 3 in the country. It's a small food with a bit of music festival that's in a couple weeks. And we brought a number of chefs in. We bring a number of well-known chefs from all around the country. And many of them have fallen in love with Nashville and have opened restaurants, have moved here, have done things like that. So what we really tried to do is really expand the universe of restaurant possibilities that were here, and the culinary appetite. I worked really hard with the city in terms of trying to put the culinary Nashville on the map, and we did a number of events. We brought in Food and Wine, we've brought in Bon Appetit, we've brought in a number of people to really look at Nashville, and I think it's really helped in a way the city explode as a culinary destination, not only as what it's known for is music and also healthcare. So it's helped the tourist boom. So what's happening now? Now there's a tremendous amount of restaurants. So what are the issues? The issues are that there are not enough people to work in all the restaurants. With all the hotels opening and with the strong employment rate in Nashville, there is a real issue with help. So that's one thing that's a problem in the city, because they're opening at a pretty rapid pace. But the good part is it takes the level of what it takes to stay in business up to a new level. So the food quality, I think, has gotten a lot better, and it's offered Nashville a real diversity. So, I mean, what are the things in the future that really are people looking in terms of technological trends? I mean, there's a number of things. I mean, the restaurant business is, for the most part, a small margin business. So you really have to watch your costs. So there's lots of ways now, technologically, and more that are being developed, where you can watch your food costs and really maximize what your employees are doing. So, you know, the other side of really what it does, the other side of where technology has really helped is in just the customer experience, because everybody goes on Yelp or everybody goes on Resi or something, and you can comment on restaurants. People can get their analytics back really, really fast in terms of what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. So you really have to stay on your toes in terms of watching what your consumer says and being able to try new things, because if you're trying things, and sometimes things are they're either trashed really fast or people love it. So you got to be a little bit nimble with what you're preparing, and you got to listen to your customer base. Because repeat customers, again, when you're in an efficient business and the business needs to be efficient to make money, repeat customers save you money. It saves on your advertising, it saves on everything else, fills up your restaurant. So, and then finally, another area which you see more and more is really important now is safety. You know, safety side is important. You know, you want to make sure stuff is fresh. You don't want to get into the whole Chipotle situation where you're having disease in your restaurants. And so temperature control, all of those kind of things are extremely important. And technologically, all of those kind of things are being developed with new apps. What is the next level of thing is how do you integrate? You know, there's a lot of integration that still needs to go on amongst these different things. And that's what a lot of the current technology, I think, is starting to really do, is to really show a lot of those kind of things. And I just want to say one thing on the music business really fast, that I'm a manager. It's different than what he does. We're personal management. But when you talk about innovation and what we really have to do, the music business is probably one of the things from my side of it that's changed more in the past 10, 15 years than most businesses. It went from where you used to tour to promote a record, where then you would put out a record basically to promote a tour, and there stopped being money in it. And now it's kind of swinging back again with streaming starting to pay. So technologically, one of the things that's really important is how do you, because it's become, in some ways, it's like the Wild West out there. There used to be a children's puzzle with 4 or 5 pieces you had to follow, and now there's 9,000 pieces that you have to follow. So it's how do you follow the money? So the really important, I think, two really important areas of the music business that you have to look at, or 3 really important areas of the music business you have to look at, is how do you track the mega data? How do you find out where all this money is? Because there's money floating around every corner, and how do you track that? So app-wise, all the technology, that's a very important thing to really concentrate on. The other thing that's really important right now is how do you, record companies, the big record companies really only concentrate, for the most part, if it's not something that's a huge pop song, they're not that interested. So how do you do things with social media and all the other things that you can really break 90% of the artists, or really get 90, 95, 99% of the artists' careers? So the whole social media side, how do you make content really cheaper, is really, really important, because that's what really happens. And when I think of the third one that I thought of, I will come back to you and tell you, but those are 2 really, really critical things that you really have to do.
All right, stay tuned. There's a third one. Hey, I'm going to say, too, because we got a little bit late start, I want to make sure the audience has time to ask questions. So we've got mics here and here, so I'm going to ask Marcus a question, and if folks want to start lining up to ask questions, we'll call on you next, and if not, we can keep going for the rest of the session. All right, Marcus, again, thanks for being here after the last 3 days you've had. We really appreciate it. Talk about, 2 years ago, Brookings put out a report about healthcare IT and really looking at Nashville, focused on Nashville, obviously, and looking at other cities around the country that they thought had the opportunity to really be the leader looking out over the next 5-10 years in healthcare IT. 2 years later, love your view on what's changed. Are we moving fast enough to become that leader and occupy that top spot in what we call healthcare capital of the country and the world? But healthcare IT is so huge. What does that look like for Nashville these days?
Yeah, so I think I'll try to quickly frame up the healthcare industry here, sort of as it is, and then maybe the IT piece will make more sense. So for anyone who doesn't know, healthcare is a $40 billion industry here in Nashville. Really sort of spearheaded by HCA, which just had their 50th anniversary. They are the largest healthcare provider in the country. They control about 5% of all the healthcare. 1 of every 20 babies is born in an HCA facility today. So that's sort of where we stand today, and this is the home of healthcare services for the country. It's the largest hospital operator, the largest ambulatory surgical center, the largest assisted home living. What else do we have? The largest behavioral health, Acadia. So there's a lot of scale that is here in Nashville, and I think the reason why Brookings identified healthcare IT is because it's pretty clear that that's where everything is going, because the margins are getting tougher in the healthcare business, and so you're having to find ways to be more efficient, and you're having to find ways to leverage technology to lower costs and also to improve outcomes, mostly through care coordination and avoiding mistakes, right? Avoiding clinical mistakes. And so I think the reason why they said it was a big opportunity is because the healthcare industry is not a very easy industry to break into for innovators. I mean, you take any technology company that's been massively successful in most areas, and they struggle in the healthcare industry. And I'm talking about the biggest Silicon Valley companies, that are out there. They don't have an easy time in the healthcare industry, and so it would make sense that proximity to the largest hospital operators and the largest behavioral health centers would give you a shot at that. I would say the challenges are going to be the makeup of a healthcare IT company is not the same as the makeup of a hospital operator, right? You need capital that's committed to investing in innovation. HCA is a bit unique in that they've made significant investments in that space, and they have their own in-house venture capabilities and everything. But I would say we have a lot of other companies. We have 400 healthcare companies outside of HCA here, and not everyone has those capabilities, has that capital capability. So we're not that deep in terms of venture capital in the healthcare IT space. Jumpstart, we're 4 years old. Certainly growing our funds under management. We just started our $35 million Series A fund last year. We've made 7 investments, and some of those are based here in Nashville. But most of the venture capitalists here invest in services. They don't invest in IT. And that's just the legacy of HCA and all of the companies that sort of came through that lineage. So there's not that much capital here for health IT. That'd be the first thing I'd say. And then also similar to the help issue in the culinary space and the hospitality space, we still need more tech talent here, right? And these things are long-term projects you got to work on. These pipelines don't just pop up in a year or two. And so, I think there have been a lot of conversations, a lot of aligning that's been happening between the different organizations that have to come together in order to make this work. Nashville Technology Council has a role to play. Tennessee HIMSS has a role to play. The Healthcare Council has a role to play. Vanderbilt has a role to play. We have a role to play, right, in terms of making that work. And I think we've been having really strong conversations over the last, 2 years to get closer. I think the Health Further Festival we just had was really helpful for making this happen. We had 2,000 people here. Half of them were really industry leaders that were from the state, but half of them were talking to the investors and the entrepreneurs. And actually, we had about 150 clinicians that joined us this year were not from the state. They were coming from all over the country and even all over the world. We had 7 companies from Israel join us this year, 3 from the Netherlands. So I think things like that are getting us to where we need to be, but we just got to keep working on it.
Right. Is it fair to say, are y'all the most active early stage healthcare investor in the country now?
Yeah, we do 20 deals a year. We've got almost 70 companies in the portfolio now. The mayor's stats were a little old. But yeah, we're the most active healthcare investor in the country.
That's incredible. And when you've got people here locally willing to put that early, crucial seed money in, and then that attracts the syndicate investors, many of whom are in the room, I hope. And so that, again, helping us push forward in Nashville, y'all are taking a key role there.
Can I add on
Yes,
to
please.
that? Because I think the real secret sauce in this area for us is collaboration and collaboration among industries. So Marcus and Rod and Ken didn't speak to any kind of challenge or issue that's different for us in building a fashion industry ecosystem. And I think where a lot of efficiencies come in is when, and frankly, one of the things that we do well here through organizations like Launch Tennessee and some others is to leverage that collective knowledge, because don't assume that what tech companies are doing in healthcare are not going to apply to helping Ken find better culinary talent, or us learn how to manage better digital supply chains. And I think that's a real secret sauce, is that we all know each other, we've worked together, we know how to connect, and I think that's what makes us different. You don't see that in other cities.
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, I think we've got a question over here. So if you would identify yourself and ask your question.
Hello, my name is Omari Bird, and I'm not a co-founder, but we're working on that in an organization, a social enterprise called Fathom. We specialize in youth-led innovation. And as a Nashville native, I just wanted to not really have a question, but I just wanted to say I did not have the perspective that, one of 20 babies was born here, or we're a Nashville fashion mecca, or we have literally all of entertainment industry coming out of Nashville. And this sort of connectivity that you were speaking towards is exactly what we need. And I just want to thank you guys for being able to put those stats out there, because now I can grab on those stats and help justify why Nashville is having such a burgeoning scene here. It makes sense when you see it now, but I didn't have that visibility, so thank you guys for that visibility. All right.
That's great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for commenting.
It's kind of a long question, so I'm going to make sure to just read it off. It kind of lends itself, it seems, to Ken and Marcus specifically. And you guys were mentioning the restaurant market and looking for technologies to bridge the culinary gap to healthcare.
Can you get a little closer to the mic?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Colin Bryce, and I founded Greenleaf Solutions, and we work in kind of bridging that gap between healthcare and the culinary world. And we specialize in designing automated hydroponic systems to bring literally into the restaurant to create really nutritious and health-oriented foods. And I wanted to ask, what advice would you have for a company like us moving forward to enter the Nashville market in the coming year? We're moving here in August, and I wanted to see if you had any advice on steps we could take to better our chances of making an impact in both the culinary and the health market.
He's based.
I think you got to get the product tested around. I really think you got to go meet, without knowing what the product is, you got to go meet with a lot of the restaurateur, maybe the restaurant groups, because that's what Nashville has, a number of restaurant groups. There's Fresh Hospitality that owns 240 restaurants. We're small, we own 9. So, but I think there's a number of other ones. So I would say that's a good place to start, and I don't know if you're looking for investment and things along those lines as well, maybe you have that, but there's the Entrepreneur Center and places like that you can go to. But I would say take some meetings. Like I know Fresh Hospitality has their own technology division as well. So that's places like that are a good place to start.
Thank you. And I would just echo again, the Nashville Entrepreneur Center, really, that's the front door to come in and say, how do I start? Here's where I am. Here's what I'm trying to do. How do I get connected to the resources potentially? And they'll also give you some steps that you may need to take before they're going to make those introductions. But that is the great kind of landing spot here.
Thank you.
I'm going to add also that you got to, tenacity, go to everything. I'm telling you, you have to work 24 hours, 7 days a week, and go to everything. There is so much available in Nashville, and there's so many people you can establish a relationship with if you go to Live on the Green and walk around. The accessibility of the people here is just amazing. So don't expect to just have appointments and appointments. Go to all these kind of events, and you're going to see, I hate to say it, I always say the good thing about Nashville, you see the same people. The bad thing about Nashville, you see the same people at everything. But that's good. So I'm just saying that if you're going to get out, this is a town that you have to be present a lot of times to win. And that's just really important. I look back, Van was my first banker. Ken, I used to sell talent to in college when he went to Vanderbilt. Marcus, I've known for years. So I'm just saying, they all grow up with you. So it's a great city for that.
Great. Glad to have you coming to town here. Let us know how we can help. Okay, come back over here, David.
Hey, thanks for the shout out, Van. I appreciate that. This is as much an observation as it is a kind of question. So you hit the point perfectly, Van, when you say collaboration. This town is very much about collaboration and community. So, but I don't think, or I haven't, the experience I've had so far with the investment community, and we've only finished our business plan for our factory for about a month. And I know a lot of the same people that you fellas know and that Van knows. But somebody that doesn't understand the fashion industry, and let's face it, that's probably most entrepreneurs in this city, and certainly most investors, are saying, this is great, a fully transparent, fully sustainable fashion garment production facility in Nashville, brilliant. But we don't understand fashion, so we're really not interested in investing. So that collaboration, that spirit of collaboration is here, but I see kind of like an initial fear factor from the investment community that aren't familiar with that industry. Marcus knows healthcare back to front. Ken, I know Ken, he knows his industry back to front. Yeah, I know the fashion industry back to front. I've been working with Van at the NFA for the past couple of years. There's a little trepidation in the investment community, and as I said, I've only presented it for the past month. But the support has been, this is great, this is a factory Nashville needs. And then crickets, because the investment community doesn't quite get it. How do you think the best, I mean, from my personal standpoint, but how do you think that collaborative investment community can get behind industry that they currently don't know, the best of that being fashion? And I'm in Van's camp, fashion industry. I mean, we've got the statistics that we had through the cluster analysis study that was done by Gersey. If you read it, if any investor actually read the cluster analysis study that we had done by a European company that specializes in consulting in the fashion, apparel, and textile industry, you'd look at this and say, that's coming here. Nashville is going to become this for the fashion industry. That investment community will probably get behind it, but we're trying to get them to see this is coming. Do you want to be an early adopter? Do you want to invest early, or wait till the industry's kind of maybe stutter stepped into doing something, into getting a slow start? How can the investment community outside of those that understand fashion get behind what we're doing?
Well, I remember that being a problem in the music industry too, and I'm certain that you faced that in healthcare at some point, but we weren't alive during that time. So, I think the opportunities are opening up as we do our job of educating people. One of the things I've always admired about the healthcare industry is it's very incestuous. And I mean that in a great way. They invest in themselves. They invest in what they need. And I think that's always been a challenge in the music industry. I suspect in the culinary industry too. So, I think we just have to keep putting together great ideas and helping people understand what those opportunities are and putting it out there.
I find that when you're looking for money, you got to put your facts and figures together really well. I mean, you really have to have a good presentation or a reputation. So, I mean, I think it's all about presenting what it is and then presenting a pro forma on what you're doing, and there's a lot of money in this town. So it's getting to it, but I think so much of it is presentation,
I heard somebody did a great panel yesterday on branding, and she mentioned that she'd spent years thinking that her audience was a creative audience, and then she realized that her audience was not a creative audience, that what they wanted to hear was facts and figures and numbers, and they'd been talking about lifestyle and and all this, and she said the minute we started really talking to them in a language that they could understand, and I think most investors understand facts and figures. They want an ironclad case.
Mark,
Yeah, I just have some general thoughts on this. So my business is raising money and investing it, and raising money is hard. Period. Raising money is hard, and it requires a lot of tenacity. It's hard. And then I would say on top of that, this sort of Ken alluded to this, but I think generally speaking, the majority of investors are going to invest in things they know or people they know, right? So if you aren't that well known, that makes it a little bit harder. If they don't know your industry, that makes it a little bit harder. And so those two things ratchet up the tenacity you're going to have, right, in order to be successful. And I think for people who are doing the work that you're doing, the work that Van is doing, this is pioneering work, and it's harder, right? It's harder. With Jumpstart, our investment business, I mean, we're now the most active, but that's a 12-month-old reality for us, right? We're a 9-year-old brand that used to invest $15,000 per company. And when we started 4 years ago, turning into a fund and not being an accelerator, we only had enough money to invest $150,000 in 8 companies. And, it took time, right? It took time for us to stick around and show some results to be able to, get to a $35 million fund. And, we want to get to 200. We're not quite ready yet. So I just think all these things take time, and, it's just part of the reality of it,
I also think it's really important to be realistic with what you're presenting. We get pitched a lot of stuff, and a lot of the stuff is so off on when you really get down and examine it. So there needs to be a basic level of reality to it, So I think that's really important.
Let me just add, one of our goals at Launch Tennessee is to help folks. Obviously we want to help investment across the board, but particularly where we can be most helpful in industries that might not have that natural advantage, where you have the cluster of investors here in healthcare and others. So we've tried to put more tools in the toolkit. So let's connect after this. One of which is the Impact Fund that we've just started. That's a co-investment. We never want to be the only dollars in the deal, but it is co-investment, and we've got a certain category around filters around impact, but we can talk about that. We also have an angel tax credit that we got passed through the legislature a couple of years ago that the mayor mentioned in terms of tax-friendly legislation. That's a tool that you could go use with potential investors. And I also say there was a panel at 10 o'clock on opportunity zones.
It was amazing.
The
It was
future is not
amazing.
yet told. We're all waiting on more information from federal government, so who knows when that information will be forthcoming. But it's a really, pun intended here, it's a huge opportunity for really across the board nationally for entrepreneurs, for investors to relook where they are, to rethink about repurposing capital gains into investment in early stage companies. So learn about opportunity zones. Again, reach out to us. We're trying to be at the forefront in terms of Tennessee knowledge around that, and we want to be marketing companies in Tennessee that will fall into opportunity zones, so that will help the companies go solicit investment. And I know, Mark, we were talking this morning,
Yeah.
we're both looking at some different things around opportunity zones.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to try to get 3 more questions here, the folks who are standing up. So we'll kind of roll through these quickly.
Okay, so first a quick comment, then a question. One, I just wanted to lift up, Van, when you were saying the importance of leveraging resources and talent, because oftentimes people look to sort of separate the challenges of tech and non-tech when a lot of them are experiencing the same challenges, and working together really maximizes opportunity. The question I have is, I'm very interested in what are the leaning out strategies to support more technology talent? I'm hearing around the country, I'm in Memphis, epicenter Memphis, by way of Detroit, Michigan, and travel quite a bit, and I'm always hearing we lack talent, we lack technology. At the end of the day, what are the solutions that people are leaning out into community and other places to tap that talent and that technology? I'm a believer that it exists, but oftentimes people are settled in their one place, and while entrepreneurs who understand to lean in, they're here, but there's others out here that have no idea about this going on. So what are some leaning out strategies that's going on in the system?
Anybody want to take that?
Yeah, I think I could take that. So it's a combination of things, right? I mean, in some cases, I put them into broad buckets, right? So one bucket would be understanding it's important to infuse STEM in our education system earlier. We have an IT academy at Overton, and we have, great camps that Vanderbilt is doing and things like that. So I think there's a whole initiative around making sure that the children who are growing up in Nashville, will one day become programmers and will want to stay because the city's such a great place. That's like one bucket. There's another bucket that says people who may be looking for a career change, can go get educated and learn how to code and become a junior developer and then at least enter the system. And Nashville Software School is a nonprofit that's really leading the way with that initiative. Also, Nashville Technology Council is starting an apprentice program that I would say also falls into that category. And then the third is recruiting. Just recruiting people who already have those skills but live in other markets where maybe they make more money, but the cost of living is much higher, and they're looking for a better quality of life, and Nashville offers that. And so I think there's a lot of efforts that are going on around, recruiting people. So those are sort of the 3 general buckets that I see. I can say, that we do have a deficit. There's no question. I see it as an investor. I'm a former technologist. I was the first chief architect at Emma Email Marketing and built that system. And there aren't enough technologists here. I mean, there really aren't. And so, we're going to have to continue to work on that if we want to be able to launch as many, companies as we're saying. Or the other thing is technology is now becoming a part of every single industry. And so, you're seeing businesses that never had in-house technology before are starting to build technology teams because they have to make their company technology enabled. It's just sort of a reality of the world. And so I think that is also putting more pressure on the tech talent needs.
I would say good news. We were talking about facts and figures earlier. Good news is Nashville. There was a ranking just came out from CB Insights, and they looked at cities, large and small, and they grouped those in terms of how many tech workers they had. And there was 2 designations. Nashville over the last 5 years was number 1 in the country among small cities in this case, and we had 43% growth. So that's incredible. Bad news on that, we're still overall on an absolute basis, we're number 43 in terms of number of workers. So it's getting better. We're on the right track, but we can't get there fast enough.
I also think one of the issues is because people come here and they fall in love with the city, and especially younger people, when they get here to grow it, there's not a lot of affordable housing. So I think we as a community have to do more to offer affordable housing so that we can really grow the young technologists and they stay here, and then more will flock here. And I think that's one of the issues that Nashville has to.
That's a big issue for us as well.
Yeah.
Great point. Okay, kick it over here.
Hey, thanks, Charlie. David Volcano. I'm president of Angel Capital Group's Nashville chapter. We do the seed for first money in for just about any area. The problem that I think is most potential, and this is mostly to you, Rod, is in the movie industry. I think there's great opportunity for growth here in Nashville for it, but the issue is, and we get movie deals pitched to us all the time. We get movie tech deals, CGI rendering, all of that type of stuff pitched to us. But I have the biggest trouble in that industry finding investors wanting to write checks because they don't know a lot about movies here. And everybody that talks to somebody that invested in a movie in Nashville says, stay away, run fast, run far. How do we overcome that culturally in Nashville to keep to get Nashville investors, new investors, or old investors back into the movie deal industry?
Well, the first thing I'll say, show Nashville, okay? When, at that point, it was Mayor Bredesen, he gave us $25 million for incentives. So there's a criteria that the bottom line is he gave us money, so we had money. So in essence, the show Nashville got a number, the state was very involved, the city was very involved in that. We have Nicole Kidman and Reese Witherspoon who have their production company here. They're still not filming here. They're taking everything to Atlanta, but their production company is here.
Yeah,
If
we
get a little
formed
bit
a
more,
company and we had to film in Utah.
yeah. And so if we get some more incentives, I mean, right now you can get 35% back. I think, isn't that right, Ken? Almost 35% in Georgia of the cost of your movie. Well, as a businessman, it's not very smart to do it here. We have everything else that there is here. The only problem is we only have one crew because 2 crews can't make a living here, so they're all moved to Atlanta. But we can get all these back. I mean, we have the greatest locations in Knoxville and Chattanooga and Memphis and everything. So all that can come back if we get some incentive money and can go and can compete with Georgia and the other states. That's the real key. Once you get that and get some things starting up, you'll have some success, and at that point, more people will invest in motion pictures and television shows out here. Jack Sussman at CBS, we see all these, NBC, ABC, they all want programs here. But the bottom line is, you're probably not going to get the programs here because we don't have the incentives. And Ken can probably speak even more to that.
So you think it's purely the incentives piece, and if we get the tax incentives from the government to be able to do it, the investors will follow in and the stiff arms will loosen.
The stars all love doing stuff here. A lot of them are living here that you don't even know live here. And so there's just a whole thing, but we have to start on the base of having an incentive program, because once we have it, we're on go.
Thank you.
Okay, last question back over here.
Hi, thank you for being here, first of all. My name is Maria Matthews. I'm a producer and audio engineer here in Nashville. And I just want to ask you a question specifically, Ken. You talked about streaming and metadata. Like, as someone who works independently, like I freelance, so it's kind of hard to get education in those areas, but I was just wondering if, like what resources you've used to self-educate in that area.
Well, to track money, there's a number of companies that you work, that we don't do it specifically, but there are a number of companies that you work with. Like, for example, on a publishing side, there's a company by the name of Cobalt, who has an office here, who have a lot more transparency in what they're doing, and they seem to be concentrating as much on normal publishing revenue as all the places that you may now want to look, because now it's really making deals with so many of the different companies that are not paying people, and there's a lot of that. So we don't do it specifically. There's just a lot of companies out there that specifically do.
Okay, I just want to thank our panelists. I also want to say there's some more great sessions this afternoon. Actually, Van is part of another session at 3 that's going to do a deeper dive on food and fashion and impact. And so please attend that. Also, some of you talking about going to market. There's a lot of things. One of the head of business development for Shark Tank, for Mark Cuban, actually, is doing a go-to-market right the first time at 2 o'clock. And the Nashville Software School that Marcus mentioned is on another panel at 1. So great stuff all afternoon. Stick around, but let's give a big hand to our 4 panelists here. Thanks.
So that we can
Oh, yeah, let's
together.
see. You have a card on you?